Welcome to the Lightforge. This is Adwicta.
This is Merps. Happy New Year once again. I feel as though it's been a long time with everything that's happening. 2021 is exhausting. It's just a continuation of 2020, but life goes on. We go on. We're going to be talking about BGs, a little bit of arenas, but a lot of BGs.
I mean,
So,
that's the real problem here. It's not 2021 yet, guys. I mean, the Western media has brainwashed everyone into thinking that it's already 2021, but we got a couple more weeks until 2021. So that's our bad for jumping the gun here. All right, we're gonna give 2021 another chance in a couple weeks. And until then, we're gonna treat this like we're still in 2020 because we are still in 2020.
basically. So, uh, we do have some new stuff in terms of a patch, and you want to talk about that first?
Yeah. There's a couple nerfs going on in the past. There's just two nerfs. One doesn't affect the arena. Van Cleef will goes from 3 mana to 4 mana. Whoop de doo. Apparently, after all this time, they decided Van Cleef was too powerful.
Yeah, Van Cleef was nerfed from 3 mana to 4 mana. Now it's a 4 mana 2/2 combo, gain +2/+2 for each other card you play this turn. The nerf is a lot less interesting than the comments that they made, not only
Hmm.
in the patch notes, but
Mm-hmm.
also Alec Dawson made some very interesting tweets about the future of Hearthstone. And they were basically saying that for now, with all of the toolkits that Rogue has, Edwin is just a little bit more powerful. And they are planning to rotate Edwin out of standard in a few months. However, the Hall of Fame that we know it in its current state, that's going to be changed slash gone. Essentially, they're saying what you're used to in this standard versus wild slash Hall of Fame format, that's going to be changed. So we're going to have to wait on news for that. And as of right now, Edwin has been changed, Bogspine Knuckles has been changed. But the bigger news, I think, is that, oh, we're going to shake things up once again.
Yeah. I think the most popular speculation is that it's going to be some sort of core set, the way MTG has. Maybe annually rotating, maybe less frequently than annual, but it would be nice. Or it will just be a one-time update of kind of the basic and the classic set, so that those cards are no longer pointless and trashy. You see them do that with the paladin and with the priest, and that was a very welcome change for the priest. So hopefully they took that and they were like, let's do it for all the classes. That would be very nice, and especially in the arena, that would be super nice because you figure a lot of those cards may or may not have that much constructed relevance anyway. But especially if they're touching the neutral cards this time around, it's going to be huge for the arena.
Yes. Looking forward to that. Blizzard has stated that basically beginning last year, they were going to make some huge changes. And we've seen that. We've seen Blizzard
Mm-hmm.
make a humongous push to make Hearthstone more relevant and more addictive slash just like you just want to be playing Hearthstone all the time, right? They want to make you stay. So I'm looking forward to that. If it's anything like the amount of effort that they put into last year, then I am extraordinarily excited for this year because I think last year, from my experience, now this is I don't play constructed and everything. It has been the most impactful year that Blizzard has ever had on my experience, even though they kind of ignored arena like they always do. They spent a lot of resources into a popular limited format like BGs. And it seems like Blizzard has huge plans for this year, including we keep on talking about a new game mode. Freaking like no one's really talking about that, but we're gonna get Duels 2.0, hopefully with more popularity than
Did they
Duels. But
say anything about? Because in my
no, they
mind,
didn't
that's
say anything.
always a game mode that was coming out before the end of the Year of the Phoenix. But maybe I made that up.
I don't know. Yeah, if you're talking about statements or hints that they made, I don't remember. I don't
Okay.
know.
Because in my mind, it's coming out before the end of the year of the Phoenix, because that's what they like announced or tweeted, or some like developer like confirmed it. Yeah, okay, we have someone in chat confirming that it is coming in the year of the Phoenix. The year of the Phoenix, by the way, guys, there's like 2.5 more months of the year of the Phoenix, and then it's over. And we're already going to get a mini expansion in the year of the Phoenix, and it looks like we may get a new game mode. And if all these standard changes come in for like the card sets, that's probably going to come in if the priest changes were any indication. That's probably going to come in the year of the Phoenix too, like a couple weeks before the new Hearthstone year kicks off. So year of the Phoenix actually has a lot of content left, even though there's no major expansion release, right? And this is not even counting like what they may do to Battlegrounds or Duels in this time, just with like regular updates, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I know we're in the we're kind of officially in the normal like lull of the Hearthstone expansion cycle, but they've done a lot of things so that these lulls aren't lulls anymore. There's just always more and more like content, more and more stuff somewhere in Hearthstone. So I'm very excited for the new game mode. I think, okay, here's my prediction, because the new game mode is supposed to come out in the year of the Phoenix. They announced it kind of after they already knew BlizzCon was canceled. New BlizzCon is at the end of February. It's February 20th. And this mini expansion usually comes in the middle. It came towards the end of January, or like I guess late January last year. This year it may come early February. It may come towards the end of January still. But we have been without a, like, if you're gonna find a midpoint between the early April expansion release that normally happens and this and the mid-November release that has just happened, well, the midpoint would be kind of towards the end of January. So it's definitely not going to be towards the end of February, which is what BlizzCon is. So they have to do something else in BlizzCon, and they're going to do something else in BlizzCon, always involving the main game mode, right? Like it's never going to be just Battlegrounds or just Duels. So I think during that time is like during the end of BlizzCon. That's when the classic and basic set revamps are going to be announced. That's when this new game mode is going to be announced. That's when maybe other stuff is going to be announced. And it's a little bit early, like it's awkward time, right? It's a little bit early to be announcing the next expansion for the next year, but maybe they announce it there and then go dark for 3 weeks, right? But certainly this is going to be an exciting couple of months leading up to BlizzCon, I think.
I think it really will be. And because I think that this year was going to be a pretty big year, and they had some pretty big announcements to make.
Uh-huh.
So, because we know there's going to be Diablo 4 news, we know there's going to be news about Overwatch 2. We know that they're going to continue
news.
this huge...
Overwatch 2 is going to be launched on BlizzCon. I'm calling it.
Maybe, yeah, definitely. I look forward to playing it. That'll be pretty fun. But anyways, we should talk about the rest of the patch as well. It's not a huge one.
Yeah. So moving on after this whole Edwin thing, there's one more card that's been nerfed. It is Boxbind Knuckles. Boxbind Knuckles is the epic shaman weapon that is 5 mana for 2. After your hero attacks, transform your minions, all your minions, into random ones that cost 1 more. That was obviously extremely OP. We rated it a 266. It is currently the second highest rated card in all of Shaman, below Eye of the Storm. So, not a huge surprise that gets nerfed. Very happy it gets nerfed, and it gets nerfed to 3 attack instead of 4, which is kind of a huge deal. Because now it's a pretty crappy weapon with a still ridiculous ability, which means that this, like, it'll still be an insane card. It just won't be as insane. Like, there's going to be a few other cards that are now going to be better in Shaman. Like, it's going to go below probably, like, I don't know. I'd probably put this still at, like, Hex level. Like, even after the nerf.
Yeah, the nerf to attack is mostly with standard in mind. So it's not just a nerf of +1 damage, because what they want to do is, yes, they want to reduce the burst that shamans are able to do, and reducing damage does that. But now they can't equip it and get a free Dread Corsair on the same turn in order to evolve. That's huge. That's the thing that Blizzard really wanted to avoid, because that swing potential is a little bit too huge right now. So the nerf of +1 attack is gonna be felt a ton more in constructed, where they, that combo is a lot more limited now. And in arena, everything matters.
Yeah, in arena it's going to be felt huge because the ability
Yeah,
is less important in
the
arena
the ability is
than
less
in
important,
constructed.
right? I'm just saying the idea behind it was, it's like, it's a huge nerf in constructed, but not for exactly the same reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And oh yeah, by the way, if you're wondering about Edwin, I don't know what Edwin is right now on our tier list, but he's still going to be good. Like I don't think he was amazing before, and he's like going to be like worse, but he's still like draftable. Like don't think like, oh, now that Edwin's nerfed, he's unable to be picked in the arena. Yeah, Edwin was a 72 in the arena. Like it's going to lower him maybe down to like a 60 or something, which in the new tier list, by the way, a 60 or like a 50 even is still pickable. Like Ogre Magai's 56, right? So like don't pick Edwin. He's not like, he's not a Yeti or anywhere close to it. He wasn't before, but he's not like totally unplayable. Like he's not going down to a 0 is kind of my point.
So I feel like we've done so many revamps of the tier list where you're saying he's a 50. People are like, oh, so he's absolutely trash then. You're like, no, we've changed it around a few times. Even I get that feeling. It's like, oh, a 50. No, wait, that we're in like version like 6.0 now,
Mm-hmm.
where it just means something different. You basically just have to take a look at the tier list right now. So yeah, it's still pickable, but you're not happy picking them.
All right. That's it for the changes into standard / arena. There is one change that happened in Battlegrounds, and it is a change everyone was hoping for, but not in the way that people were hoping for exactly. This is the change to Elystra. Elystra used to be a 7/7. It is now a 4/4. We've discussed this in 3 of the last 4 Lightforges, I feel like, because Elystra is kind of dominating Battlegrounds meta. And basically this doesn't solve the problem. Like the text didn't change, it's still absorbing 4 hits. It certainly makes Elystra a bit worse when you kind of discover it and try to use it as a tempo play in addition to what it does, but for what it's really harmful for, it doesn't change it. It's still absorbing 4 hits.
Yeah, Elystra being a 4/4, what it really does is it dampens the effect that Elystra has in the mid game, especially the early mid game, where the people who get that super early triple and are tripling into tier 6, if they get an Elystra and it's a 7/7, it's an amazing tempo play. Whereas a 4/4 is, now you have a chance of losing. You might just tie. You don't deal that much damage to your opponent. It's not the amazing tempo play that it once was. So, because if you compare something like Elystra with Gascoigne, where you're like, wait, Elystra's kind of just better. It's like, even as just a tempo play, which that's what Gascoigne is. You're like, well, unless I'm hoping to high roll huge with Gascoigne, Elystra's just really good, and it sets me up for the end game. So yeah, sure, Elystra, that's great, but it certainly doesn't solve Elystra's problem of directing all those hits. It makes the meta different. It's still skill testing. I don't want to say it like ruins the meta or anything. Do I like the presence of Elystra in the meta? I don't. I've learned how to play around her, and it does require strategy and skill testing, but I think too much of that skill is identifying whether or not they have an Elystra / what is the chance they have an Elystra, and then evaluating that risk and positioning accordingly. This is if you don't know if they have an Elystra. And if you think I'm saying Elystra a lot, that it just goes to show it's like her effect on the endgame meta is so huge for just putting one minion in. So that's what I don't like about it, but it's a very small step in the right direction, because an end game tech unit definitely should not be chunking people in the early mid game if they triple into it as well.
Yep. All right. Well, those are all the updates that have happened. Like we said, there's a lot of things going on in the Year of the Phoenix. We expect, if not like updates to the game, but like news to be hitting like fast and furious in the coming weeks, especially as we get out of the whole like vacation period. Um, of the New Year's. So let's move on to our core segment of the day. We did almost all arenas last time with Judge here, and if you haven't watched that, go watch or listen to the previous Lightforge episode with Judge. It's a great episode, and Judge was really helpful with a lot of the current arena meta stuff. So now let's go to BGs.
All right. We're going to BGs. I'm going to be talking to you guys about BGs. I think I'm still on page 1 of the leaderboards, even though I haven't really played in a week and a half. Teehee. I am.
Page 1 of the leaderboards is top 25 BGs.
By the way, you said it, not me. So I haven't played that much, but I've watched a lot of streams still, and I'll sometimes play on my EU account here or there just because I'm tired and I just want to do some wacky shenanigans. But I do think I have a decent grasp of the meta, and I want to share that with you through a BuzzFeed clickbait-esque 10 things that are holding you back from becoming a leaderboard player, like me, Merps. Hi. I do think, even though it's a little bit in jest, this is really important. And I see even a decent amount of streamers make these mistakes, and it's hard to give specific advice in BGs. So I think a top 10 list like this is quite helpful because we can break down a lot of these things that you guys might be doing in your own game, might not be realizing it, and I'll help you identify those issues as well. Number 1, you don't know your hero. Or what's even worse, you know your hero, but you deviate. This is something I brought up before, but I want to put it at number 1 because this is very important. This is one of those things where we're just talking about kind of like the knowledge that you need to enter. Like in order for you to even think about becoming a top player, you need to know your hero. For example, with Elise, if you are Elise, you need to stick to the Elise curve. What that means is you need to be lucky and spike a token on 1, or if you have a token, sometimes I will freeze for it just because I'll have that token such that on 6 gold I can sell the token to level and then map. And then on the next turn, so on 7 gold, you have 1 roll, you buy 2. On the turn after that, you level, you map, and then it's a process of sell map, and you're on tier 6. That is the Elise curve. I see people deviate from that a little bit too much. Like when I face them and then I see what they were supposed to do, and then I see where their board is, and my next question to them is like, okay, so what did you sacrifice this amazing leveling structure / tier in order to get? And I see what they have. I'm like, nope, that's wrong. You sacrifice so much, because that is the smoothest curve by far for Elise, and you gain so much by doing that. And it's just a matter of, in my opinion, not knowing, not trusting, or whatever, or deviating from a set plan, a plan that works, right? Because Elise is such a good character. And this goes to quite a few characters as well. Like, if you're playing as Maiev or Rafam, there are certain specific cookie cutter tiering structures you want to stick to, unless something weird happens, right? Because there are cards that make it easier for you to deviate from it. For example, a Swabby. Swabby makes the leveling really weird. Also, if you're Rafam, you triple the Swabby, and then things get really weird in a good way. But I see people deviate from that really often just to pick up, for example, like a Cyclone Elemental, just to pick up a Deflecto because they really like it. And they're like, oh, but this is a good unit. The most of the time, the leveling structure is more powerful than just that one unit. So I will say that the number one advice is know your hero, understand that these leveling structures are powerful for a reason. And most of the time, they're more powerful than deviating just to grab a single unit. So that's number one. Do you have any questions? I'll always leave you some room for questions.
No, that all sounds good to me. The Elystra thing, not the Elystra thing, the Elise thing we've covered before in a previous episode, so I'm well aware of your very strong feelings towards keeping with that curve.
I feel very, very strongly with that. And I see people deviate off of it. And sometimes I understand. And I've done it a few times as well because I don't know, it's just too good, right? It's just like way too good. But typically you just want to stick to it. Okay. So number two, you're too afraid to level. And I'm always afraid to say this because people come back to me and they're like, you told me to level, I leveled, and I died. Well, you probably made some mistakes along the way. I'm sorry. But generally, you shouldn't be too afraid to level at the first opportunity that you get. Because if you don't level then, every single turn that you delay it, it becomes much more dangerous. People have an opportunity to pop off significantly. In this meta, especially, you want to be watching out for turn 8. Turn 8 is the pop off turn because that's when everyone gets the secondary prize. And whether the secondary prize is on the house, the prize that allows them to discover from the previous warband, like their opponent's warband, evolving tavern, all of that stuff, there's a huge pop off potential there. So for example, the turn before that, a lot of people are trying to just really greedily level up. You should generally level up along with them. And after that, people sometimes level up again in order to discover a 6, or maybe they're discovering a 5. I want to say in this Dark Moon Fair prize meta, if you are staying down while almost everyone in the lobby is leveling up because they want to be able to be at a high tier when this turn 8 prize hits, you got to have a really, really good reason for it. Once again, not just picking up a Deflecto, not just picking up a Cyclone Elemental. Because if you're afraid to level because you're like, oh, I'm going to get beat by this person, if your answer to why am I not leveling is I think I'm going to get beat by this person, that's not good enough. If the answer is I have such a good setup with these minions in the tavern, maybe. If your answer is like I might take way too much damage from this person, maybe. But once again, remember what I said last week as well. If you are facing demon players in the mid game, fantastic. They just gave you a great opportunity. You're basically saying I get to level in exchange for like 5 damage to the face. Yeah, like you always take that 5 damage, but you always take that 5 damage anyways and you level. And in the mid game, you always take that exchange. 5 damage to your face in order to get a level. So be happy that you're facing the super duper powerful demon player who has like the huge Wrathweaver that you can never kill, but typically that's the only thing that's left because they have all of these small things that you're able to kill as well. So don't be afraid to level, especially at the first opportunity. This is less than like the problem is if you're afraid to level at that first opportunity and you're just like, well, I feel strong enough now that I buffed up all of these things and it's like turn 10. Now I feel like, and Merps tells me to level now. I'm like, oh, maybe then you just stay and you take your 4th place. Like I'm telling you to level early at an opportunity in which everyone else is also trying to rush there. And that's when you see the problem. You stay there for 1 extra turn, you could just get stuck there forever. Like that's really the issue. You got to go with everyone and then keep up. Otherwise, you're just going to be spiraling downwards and perpetually stuck in like Tavern 4.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep. Because that's what I usually do. Just stay there.
perpetually spiral. You get to tier 4, you're like, oh, the end
We're
game.
good. You can discover tier 5 minions from tier 4.
You're like, oh, the end game. I'm
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yeah.
Whew.
Get there on turn 9. Like a normal person.
Oh god. Oh god, no. I'm on tier 5 by that time. Oh yeah. You just got to tier 4. That's great. I'm gonna hang out in tier 5. Um All right. Now, tip number 3 to basically piggyback off that idea. Once you level, you're too greedy. This is an issue that I also see people do. They're like, Merps, I hear you, man. I'm a gambler. I level, I hit that button, I believe, I have faith. And I am going to pick up that brand, and I'm going to pick up, like, the CAD guard, and I'm going to pick up all of these tech units because I really believe. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know your specific situation, but you want to balance it out. Typically what happens is when you level, you need to balance it out by picking some good tempo units. So you don't want to play mechs, you don't want that Sneeds, too bad. Pick the Sneeds. You're on 5. It's a really good tempo unit. That Pagel is there in the first shop. Great. An even better example, though, with different heroes, different curves, you level up to 5. You still don't have a full warband. This happens to me quite often. Like, it's, for example, I leveled up to 5. I'm on 8 gold. And next turn, it is, I have 9 gold. I'm on Tavern 5, and I have 3 slots. Perfect enough to just buy 3 units. The shop pops up. It kind of sucks. It's not great. And I can roll to get something better, or I can pick up 3 decent units, like 1 tier 5 unit, an okay-ish tier 4 unit, and like a buff, right? That buffs things that I'm not really going to keep. You take that.
But
You level, yeah.
You have to, because you've sacrificed everything to level there fast, right? Your strategy is to get there first. So after you get there first and you consider yourself there, you can't, you can no longer be choosy about anything, right? That's part of the cost of getting there early, right? You open yourself up to the opportunity, but if you don't get lucky, you have to stay there and do your thing and then try to hit it the next turn. And that's fine. It's just one turn. You know what I mean? If you're there early and then you wait a turn, you're still there at the same time that everyone else is, right? And that's after you kind of don't get lucky in your first roll.
Yep. So always make sure to balance out that fact. And sometimes you need to also pick the Discover, which is more tempo intensive rather than tech. But just balance out that fact. What you always want to be doing is, so tiering up is kind of a universally good thing. It's kind of just always good. And you won't always hit, but at least you're on that tier. You got you have a chance, right? So you can be kind of frustrated that you didn't get, the best units. It's just going to happen. But you got to tier 5. You have some HP to play with. You always have the next turn. Know that this is what everyone else is doing. And the chances that they hit, the brand double jug is pretty rare. So be happy with what you have and just play for tempo after you have greedily leveled, just like everyone else is doing in this meta. Okay. Number 4, get comfortable with unconventional warbands. This is something that I also see people struggle with or get uncomfortable with. Most importantly, I see a lot of comments in the chat just ask, what are we? Or this is a weird Murloc comp that we have. This is a weird whatever comp we have. You just want to play for strength and also balance it out with a constant question in your head of what is my out? What is the end game here? And yes, it's kind of like always Amalgadon because it's an Amalgadon meta.
I
But
was about to say, isn't it always Menagerie? Aren't you always just putting different versions of Menagerie out there when you get to the
so,
end game?
yeah, it's like either always I mean, the strongest are going to be Menagerie, Amalgadon Menagerie, big dragons, which are
Dragons, of
possible,
course.
and rare but still very powerful Goldrun Beast. But you got to be like huge Goldrun Beast. I'm not saying just like regular Baron, regular Goldrun, regular Parrots. I'm talking about like two of those things golden. Um, but that is a very, very powerful comp these days, especially with Elystras, because you can just direct all of their hits so they don't disrupt your Parrot Goldrun combos. But yes, you got to get comfortable with these unconventional warbands. So like half mech, half menagerie, half Murloc, half mech. I've done that before as well. I think people want to get into something they're comfortable with really, really soon. So they'll look at their Murlocs, like half Murloc, half mech, and they'll look at it and be like, okay, I got to commit to one of these ASAP. Like, what's my identity here? No, what you got to do in that instance is figure out how strong do I have to be just to beat the people in front of me, who I'm facing next. How do I use my gold efficiently? And then how do I slowly work towards the end game there? And a lot of people actually throw away advantages or are inefficient with their gold because they just want to feel more comfortable instead of actually making the right decision. So at the end of the day, a lot of this comes down to gold efficiency. And when we play together, this is something I talk about, right? This is something I always stress. You want to have a comp in which if you are a mono tribe, you want to make sure that that mono tribe is strong enough such that you can use your gold efficiently. This is why dragon mono comp works, because Calgos benefits off of all battle cries.
Oh.
You roll once, you're going to see 2 to 3 battle cries. So you're going to be using up your gold. That's gold efficiency right there, because Calgos makes you get gold efficiency. Bran makes you have gold efficiency with Menagerie. So that's why it's super duper strong. Goldrun is strong because of its weird mechanics and everything. But I also never
is
go
strong because it shouldn't exist.
Yeah, it's weird. But that's what you want. And when you are pushing, when you are stretching to go into these mono tribes, when you should just be focusing on gold efficiency, you make yourself less efficient with your gold and you lose. That's it. We can talk about, like, some people might hate kind of reducing Battlegrounds to this sort of macro game like we compared it to with StarCraft 2 or StarCraft Macro, but that's really what it is. If you macro inefficiently, you lose games, and you'll lose a ton over the entire span of all of your games. So, unconventional warbands.
Makes sense.
Number 5, this is kind of similar to the other one because it's about gold efficiency. You let the perfect get in the way of the good. And here is where you're playing Menagerie, or let's say you're playing Dragons, you're doing something. And I see this in the chat a lot. They're like, hey, Merps, you missed that Hydra for your Menagerie. Hey, Merps, you missed that Bronze Warden, or you missed that, like Herald. You could have sold and bought that and started building that up. I'm not going to tell you guys what is right and what is wrong because it is too, situation specific. But what I will tell you is that if you find that you always have a Hydra in your Menagerie comp, if you always have a Deflecto in your Menagerie comp, if you always have, the Bronze Wardens and Heralds in your Dragon comps, you're doing it wrong. Because there's no way that if you're playing optimally, you should always have those things. And what that means is you're just reaching for these. You're being gold inefficient, and you're either replacing them and ditching stuff that's already been buffed. I see people do this. Or you're rolling and you are trying to find these a little bit too hard. Once again, it's about gold efficiency here. I can't tell you the specific breaking point in which the Hydra is not worth getting. I can't tell you that, what the breaking point is for the Deflecto. I can just tell you that the only way you can sort of evaluate is look at streamers who are on the leaderboard, eyeball and check out. It's like, okay, so Victor has like Hydra approximately this amount of times in his menagerie comps. I always have it in mind. Hopefully you don't think, wow, I always have Hydra. I'm so good. Why does Victor suck and he doesn't always have Hydra? It means that he has deemed, rightfully so, that it's not efficient for him, even when he sees it in the shop. And sometimes you're like, wait, that's early. He should switch. He doesn't switch. And you'll see a lot of successful leaderboard players do the same thing, where they're good at evaluating this stuff. And once again, people are comfortable or they want the perfect comp, and they end up being really gold inefficient, and they just end up losing.
All right. I mean, it's helpful to know that, but there's no real way here to apply it.
Right? Yeah, I think even knowing that, because I think some people even have this idea. It's like, even if I have like a 15-15 beast, I can trade it for a Cave Hydra. So, and some of you guys are like, wait, that's ridiculous. Great.
I feel like a lot of people in chat think that, because and that's been a belief that's been long held. Like, this isn't this meta kind of thing. It's like, that's even when it was harder to buff up a Hydra than it is now, that was a belief that existed like 9 months ago. And I remember I always had to fight against that because I hate Hydras. And because my games don't go that long, because I'm not getting first place. So this Hydra's not growing to as big as people think they are.
That is true.
But now
end game, you mean like an 8 attack Hydra?
Yeah, right. It's like, that's not that good. I don't know why people are pushing me on it. I'm not ditching at 15-15 for that. But yeah, these days you can buff the Hydra up a lot quicker. But still, there's always a line, right? There's never it's never a always. There's very few things that are always in the game, and I think if you think of something as an always, you just don't you're almost automatically wrong if you think always do X, right? Or do X 95% of the time. Even Battlegrounds is so flexible.
Yep, definitely. So the next tip I can give to you guys is really important for this meta. And this is, you think stats matter a lot more than they do in the end game. General tip for all of you guys out there. Once you are in a 1v1 situation at the end, in this meta, you want to be spending at least, I'm not even kidding. I spend a lot more than this. At least 25 to 30 seconds of your turn just thinking about positioning. And the questions you want to be asking are, what happens if I go first? What happens if my opponent goes first? Do they have Elystra? Could they have Elystra? How many? Okay. A simple one way to simplify the end game is how many hits do both of us have? And by hits, because things are so big and there's so many Divine Shield poisons out there, you can just count okay, Divine Shield poison, that's 2 hits. And something like a Selfless could even be 2 hits, right? Because that can hit a shield, so that takes away 1 hit, gives something else Divine Shield, which is another hit. It's one of the reasons why Selfless is so good. But it's okay, you have a 50-50 on your board. And if it covers most things on their board, that's a hit. So it's an easy way to do a lot of this math. And you're like, am I ahead or behind on hits? And once you have figured that out, you have an idea of, okay, how much of a risk do I have to take? This is a good segue into, I'm going to put up a video on YouTube pretty soon of a run I just did recently in which I was very much behind on the poison divine shield, but we found a way to win because of positioning. And this is something where late in the game, I still see some streamers like kind of debating for, I don't know, even like 5 seconds. It's like, oh, do I pick up this jug? Do I get this? Do I get that? Stats sometimes matter in the end game, but on average, you are going to get a lot more MMR in the long run if you just devote at least 25-30 seconds, and I would say even the majority of your time to positioning right now, because that will win/lose you the game. I'll keep it there for now, because like the other tips will elaborate on that a little bit. But do you have any thoughts on that?
I completely agree. After I saw that Elystra existed, I figured that would be how things go. And I've always been, I've said this many, many times, and no one believes me, and says that stats don't matter in the end. In most metas, and people keep bitching at me about losing like 4 stats here or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, this is a misplay, but this is not really going to affect stuff. Sometimes
they do matter during the during the mid game.
Yes, they do matter during the mid game. I don't disagree. They matter a lot during the mid game, but during the when you get to the end game part, it doesn't matter anymore. And that's why I like making my build so that in the mid game it doesn't matter because I'm so far ahead. You know what I mean? So then it matters less when I miss stuff, and then when people leapfrog me, it again matters less because they're so far ahead anyway. Right?
They're so far ahead, right?
So I've reduced the amount that misplays matter in my strategy, which is good if you're going to make some misplays. But regardless, in the very end game, I think stats are always overrated, and in this meta with Elystra, with Divine Shield Poisons, especially so.
All right, next tip: you're not using the battle time in order to help your strategy/win percentage. So what does that mean? A lot of people, once the battle begins, they just butt clench and they're like, come on, let's go. All right, here's what you do. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Don't have fun when the game tells you to have fun. That's not that to have fun time, all right? That's when bad players have fun. Good players use it as if it's just their turn and they have to think and do work.
Here's exactly what you should be doing, and this is what I do, and I find it to be incredibly useful for me. If you have Deck Tracker, and you should have Deck Tracker, if you don't get it, like that could just be number 1 through 10. You don't have Deck Tracker, 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 repeat. But what you want to be doing, look at their lineup. So once again, this is a 1v1 situation at the very end, and you want to study how many hits they have, what their order is, kind of, how do you play around? Like, if you're facing that person for the first time, and if there's a chance for you to face them again, right? If you're dead, you're dead, whatever. But if you have a chance to face them again, there's always something better you can do with your positioning now that you have the information. So what you want to do is count the hits, reposition your minions, and most importantly, answer the question of, okay, well, knowing all of this, knowing what do I need in order to, number 1, keep on winning, or number 2, win because I'm unfavored right now. Then you can answer the question of, what are the things that I will buy? The only things that I will buy / what are the things that I'm just hard rolling for in the end game? A lot of times it's like an Elystra, a Selfless, a Nadina. It's not really stats anymore. Maybe it's like a module. It's something that has like high impact, a Malgadon, right? So once you've identified these, once your turn begins, you just like start rolling. If you don't see those things, that's fine. Roll. And then now you have a ton of time in order to think about your turn, right? This is sort of part B of the part A, which was my last tip. This is the way you give yourself enough time in order to position. Whether or not you are able to get the units that you need, you're giving yourself the maximum amount of time to just think through. Because what you want to do is just map it out. If they go first, they hit, and it gets complicated because you have to calculate sort of like, okay, well, they have 2 Divine Shield taunts. I want to be able to hit this one. And you have to try to play some mind games as well. Like, well, they did this. What if I move this there? What if they move that there? Once again, this is stuff that you just have to get used to. It's stuff that you'll be able to process much faster. It's just like if you play chess a lot, the best chess players can see moves ahead. They just see it, right? They see how it's going to play out. If you play BGs a lot, you'll see, okay, this is how the way the hits will go, and I need to risk assess.
But BGs only has one layer of looking ahead, and it
yeah,
goes ahead.
This is not.
Yeah, it goes ahead, and is my opponent going to anticipate my move and then do the thing that would normally screw him over, but would actually defeat me if I do the move that I'm normally expected to do? That's the only question. It's a one layer Yomi.
What you're really looking ahead to is really just the fork of probabilities that could happen in the hits, right? It's like, okay, so if my first hit hits taunt A, what implications does it have versus hitting taunt B, and then you fork it all the way down.
Yeah, and I want to stress that the hard part of BG is figuring out what the things are, not playing the actual game of chess or Yomi, like rock paper scissors or whatever, right? Like the actual rock paper scissors, to whatever degree that there is skill in rock paper scissors, is the simplest in BGs, because you are just anticipating one possible thing and your opponent is anticipating one possible thing, and you guys just loop around, right? Like with each other. But actually figuring out what that thing is that you may want to anticipate is actually freaking ridiculously hard, because there's a lot of hits and then a lot of whatever, and you just keep trying to figure it out. And then when you get screwed, like, and you're looking at the actual battles and how it does play out, you're like, oh, well, I could have done this. And then you're thinking, wait, but I should have known that before this battle even started, right? And it's just my bad that I wasn't even thinking about it. And that's how you improve and get better at knowing what you may do. So my advice with this, the rock, paper, scissors, Yomi thing, is to don't think about it, because you don't have time to think about it. Just do the one thing. Have a game plan. Your plan is either, I'm going to do the thing that screws over what my opponent had the last turn, that the thing that I know, or your plan is, I'm going to do the thing that screws over my opponent if he does the logical next move to screw me over. Just one of them. Because it never, ever... It's like rock, paper, scissors, right? Like, is there a strategy to rock, paper, scissors? Yes, kind of. But your incremental gains are so low, and you're on a timer here. It's not like you have an infinite amount of time to think about it. It's not like you're programming a machine that'll actually rock, paper, scissors the right way, like, and they do it, like, instantly. You are using your resource, which is the rope. It's not worth it here. So, what is worth it is to figure out what the thing is, and then apply your strategy to the thing. And your strategy should be very simple. Right. Always do the thing to screw my opponents over, or always think my opponent is anticipating my thing. That's it.
Yep. I mean, this is one of those examples where you'll see in the YouTube that's about to pop up, where I positioned around him keeping his lineup basically the way it was, and most importantly, putting his Foe Reaper first constantly, because I couldn't account for other ones. If he did something different, he probably wins, but that's fine. Like, if he always wins in those instances, I just have to account for the times in which he gives me that glimmer of hope, right? He gives me the opportunity. And thankfully, he never moved his Foe Reaper. So, and I planned it all around that Foe Reaper and then the subsequent hits. So that's always something you want to keep in mind as well. Number 8, we're getting a little bit bigger here in terms of general stuff. You're just not asking the right questions. And what I mean by that is we're kind of getting into the Neo, like, there is no spoon kind of thing. But a lot of times when
Okay, so there is no spoon, but why does the spoon bend? I never understood that. I understood that there is no spoon. But then why isn't the spoon doing anything besides bending? Like, the spoon seems like it's following some very rigid set of physics that is just not regular physics.
I think what they mean is there is no spoon in the way that you, number one, in the way that you categorize as a spoon, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a spoon.
No, I totally get it. But then they replace the spoon with a different version of a spoon, rather than the actual concept that they're trying to get at philosophically, which is that there is no spoon. So there is still a spoon, just not your spoon.
So you're saying that the movie should have shown it as not a bent spoon, but like, I don't know,
It just
a
gets
light.
complicated. I get why the movie did it because they need to make the lowest common denominator audience understand some
Right.
vague version of the concept. But I just
Mhm.
want like our listeners to know that The Matrix did a horrible job of explaining the whole concept of there is no spoon. And if you think that that is what there is no spoon means, that is not what there is no spoon means, and that is not what Merps means by there is no spoon.
No, but it's a movie
Yes, fine,
that wanted to make a lot of money.
fine, and it was very successful at that. I get it.
Okay, good. But you're not asking the right questions because the question that I think most people are asking when they see a shop is, do I want this card? And they get stuck on that question. The same thing in Arena, where if you watch my guide, I think my most important advice I tell people is you're thinking of a Yeti as a Yeti. What you should do is break down that Yeti into its fundamental building blocks as this is a mini on the board. What does that mean? It has delayed initiative, but it can go face. It can be able to give me board dominance, which means this and that. It also means I don't have to use this fireball in my hand because that's my other alternative. And what does that mean? Well, I can use the fireball to take care of a threat. I can use the Yeti to dominate the board, and then the fireball can go face. It's all of these things. So you're breaking down the Yeti into its building blocks. And I've learned that when I coach people and they're playing an arena run, they're just like, okay, well, I could play the Yeti. Do I want to play the Yeti? I don't know. Like, and they just keep on harping on the fact that, all right, do I do this? Do I do that? Do I do this? Do I do that? There are many ways around it. What you want to do is break it down. So if you're like, let's say, staring at, let's say, a salty looter on tier 3, you don't really want to go pirates, and you have a roll left. You're like, do I buy it? Do I not buy it? Do I buy it? Do I not buy it? I don't want to go pirates. Do I want to go pirates? These are things that people are asking. You're already asking the wrong questions. And what you want to do is ask some questions which challenge you and also are on the negative side. So it's like, if I don't take this salty looter and I roll, what are the better things that I would take? And you can just count them. You can literally just count them, being like, okay, I would take a Bronze Warden. Okay, I would take a Deflecto. Okay, I would take this. I would take that. Would I take anything from tier 1? No. Okay. Would I take anything from tier 2? No. Okay. Well, your chances are pretty slim, right? And if there's only these things, well, chances are you're not going to find anything better. So you should just take this. And then what?
Yeah, so part of this is, and Merps asked me this question a lot, you really do have to know what minions are on each tier very, very well, because as the meta's changed, I have, like, especially with the elementals and stuff, I have, and the new, like, minions, I have less of a intuitive, immediate grasp of what would I take instead, right? So my odds in my head that I'm doing is, like, just not anywhere near as quick, and you got to be quick with this. So, like, as a prerequisite to this, you really do have to know what minions are in each are in each tier, and especially what tempo minions are in each tier, because those are always the ones that you would take in the mid game.
So if you find yourself
over bad stuff, I mean,
yeah, if you find yourself stuck with, do I take this or not? You're just stuck on the same question. Try asking yourself different questions. That's it. You're just constantly asking different questions, and you might ask the wrong questions at first. But if you watch streams, a lot of people are pretty good at saying what they're thinking, and I think a lot of people just focus on like, you know, the sexy Khadgar plays, or, you know, the Keck W 2% lethals, and these are the things that they really just, you know, in one ear, out the other, which is the thought process. And most importantly, the questions that the streamers are asking themselves in order to help them get there. Because they are certainly not asking the question, is this good? Because that question there's no way to answer that, right? In order to actually get to that answer, you have to ask other questions in order to try to get there. But too many people just try to get to just try to ask like the big unknowing universal question, which is like, do I take this? Is it good? I don't know. Let's break it down. You always have to break it down. And if you're not breaking it down further, you just kind of get stuck. So that is a huge advice I'll give you about almost any strategy game. You know, it's applicable to Arena, it's applicable to BGs, but really any strategy game that that you might just get stuck making a decision on.
Yeah, before we get to number 9, so for the breaking it down, this is how, by the way, if you guys were, this is how the tier list is made. This is how all the tier lists and all the algorithms I ever do for any game is made. You take the stuff, you say what is this actually? How does it relate to the game? And then you break everything down. You find the most fundamental pieces, and then you're able to build a backup. And then you can build a backup at any configuration you want, and then you can get the stuff. And your percent chances of building a backup, your lack of choice, that all gets factored in by multipliers and chance, because that's how games of chance work. I was gonna talk about this after this, but I recently did a Hades algorithm. It's a single player game, but there's a lot of numbers in there, and I did it for my own kind of knowledge and enjoyment. And what I had to do was I had to break down what everything really meant in the game, right? What every single boon choice really, really meant. And what every keepsake choice means, what every single pact of punishment choice, what did it mean? What did it do? How did it affect everything? So not just oh, is this good or bad, right? You have to do this in every element. As long as you have kind of numbers, because numbers are pretty important to this. Maybe you don't need numbers, but I find it difficult to think about it if there's a lack of numbers or something that you could turn into numbers. And then you have to have a consistent fundamental mechanic or physics to the game, which almost all games have. Some are simple, some are complicated. But for a strategy game like Hearthstone, these things are kind of the backbone of everything. So this is how you should always be thinking. Merps is talking about it in the thread of BGs and the questions you're asking. But when are you asking a question, right? That's every single thing you do in BGs. Every single thing you do in the arena. All of it is this question. So this is the most fundamental part of how you're evaluating anything, right? That's why, going back to the Matrix, is there is no spoon. They don't give a crap about the spoon, right? The spoon is not saving their world or whatever. They're just using it so that you can understand how to do everything. And that's kind of it's not the easiest thing to do, but you gotta, the more in tune you are with it, the more you can kind of do everything. And fundamentally, that is one of the ways that you become a better player.
Okay. We're gonna go even wider scope.
You're gonna go wider than there is no spoon?
Well, because we're going basically outside of the game now. So yeah, there is no spoon because I'm not even talking about the game anymore. But the last 2 tips I think are actually really important for people. Number 9, you're actually just watching too many streams. And what ends up happening here is that, number 1, you're just not playing enough. And some people think that if I watch enough streams and I jump right back into the game, I'll just be fine, because I've watched so many high MMR streamers and it's oh yeah, all of their plays make sense. Yeah, that's great. What people tend to do is they get too comfortable and they see them make a play and they're like, yes, that makes sense. Yes, that makes sense. It's they're a quality control person who checks off on things. They're oh, that looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Well, yeah, of course it looks pretty good. A leaderboard player did it, right? So most of the time it'll look pretty good. The question is, would you have gotten there? Mm-hmm. And I think most people think, yeah, of course, because I believe that it is a good move, I would have gotten there. But that's not the same thing. That's not the same thing.
Do people do it? Do people do this? Because I know in Arena, I know they do that. So in Arena, I know one of the things we recommend.
Wait, do people? No, people actually do that.
No, so in Arena, one of the recommendations we always gave, and we've given this for 6 years, and we didn't come up with it. It's just always been advice: is you watch a streamer and then you hit pause really annoyingly, all the time before every single move, and you do your move. Then you see the streamer do their move, and then you make sure you're doing the same move, and then the closer you align your overall thought process with a really, really good streamer, the more your strategy will generally see success. Not that they're 100% right, but what they're doing is clearly working. Do people do that with Battlegrounds? It moves really, really fast, so I think it may be difficult.
You can't do that. And this is why it's more problematic for BGs, because you can't do that, right?
Okay.
There's too many moves, there's too many of this, and also there's too many ways for the streamer to be wrong and the viewer to be right, as long as you follow it up with subsequent right, quote
Right.
unquote right moves for that tree. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, for example, if you took a game for, like two top leaderboard players, you gave them that character, and then you were able to play it out in alternate universes, where, if they did the same exact thing, the same exact things would happen, right? But if they branched, then, it's different.
Hmm.
Um, they could still both get number one still, but it's because they have, like, they're able to play it their way and still win, right? Still both get number one. But I see a lot of people just be very satisfied with, it's like, yes, okay, I've identified that Slissa played a really good game. Dog played a really good game. That's great. And I also identified when they played a bad game, because even they admitted it, right? But once you get into your own games, you can't really get there because you're not doing quality control anymore. You have to proactively decide and do all of this. And it's very, very different. So take that away for a second, because when you're watching streams, yes, you are learning about what is correct / not correct, but you are not practicing this skill of actually being able to get there, because it's not quality control. Quality control and deciding whether or not a play was good or bad afterwards, it's very different from you deciding to do it, which some people immediately I'm talking to, and you're just like, I understand why that's so different. And some people, I think, might not understand. They're like, wait, if you can identify if a play was correct, then you should be able to get there. No, like it's the difference between, and this is once again a different game. For example, why Overwatch casters aren't pros, or
Wow. That has a mechanical element as well.
exactly, which is why I'm saying there's a mechanical element to it. But I mean, like, why here? No. Here's a good example. Some Overwatch casters aren't even that good at Overwatch. I'm not gonna name anyone specifically, but in the years, like, I've seen some of these casters who, they know the game, they're not that high on there, and it's like, there's a real difference here. They can identify whether or not that ult usage was good. They can identify whether or not, and this isn't mechanics, right? Whether or not that positioning of them being there was good. Yeah. But when they're put in the spot and they need to actively move there or actively use that ability, it's different.
You can go far wider. Like, think of all the movie critics and TV critics. It doesn't mean they're going to make great movies or TVs. They could be great critics and identify everything right and wrong with a movie and whatever, and they could be like really good to it. They could like analyze a movie or a TV show better than the creators themselves, because that's their skill. But you make them, do a whole TV show or movie and give them a really high budget or whatever, it's chances of it coming out good is still like on the low side, because this has been done a couple times before, and you see it, and you see the result, and you're like, I kind of get why I ended up this way. So what's your ideal ratio between watching top streams and actually getting out there and play?
If your goal is to actually be a leaderboard player, like rank up, you should make sure your watch time does not exceed a third of your overall BG consumption.
Okay.
So
I was gonna go much lower than that.
Yeah, I want to make sure it doesn't exceed. Okay,
so that's like the upper bound. If you're ever watching
the highest, that is the highest.
So if you're ever watching BGs for more than 50% of your other playtime, you're doing it wrong if your goal is to improve. It may be enjoyable, which is a separate goal that we don't talk about.
Right. I would say I break that in a huge way. I probably watch like 90% and I play 10%, but I'm watching it for just enjoyment. And also I'm like, when I try to learn, I know how to actively learn. What we're trying to do is get you guys to the point where you are able to just like actively learn right there.
And I don't know what you think the minimum is, but I think the minimum, and I'm from the opposite thing where it's really hard to get me to watch someone play the game until I am so thorough with the game that I've tried everything that I would try
I
in a
know
game.
you.
And then
Yes.
I'll watch like someone really good do it, and I'll be like, "Oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna try that," and whatever, right? But I think and I'm definitely doing too little of it in pretty much every game that I play. But I think there, at a bare minimum, 5% of your time would be good to spend watching better players play. So if you are someone who is on the other side of the spectrum and never watches, like maybe you're listening to the podcast, but you never actually watch someone actually play a game on Twitch or on YouTube or whatever, you should probably up that to a minimum of 5% of your total time if your goal is to really like get better. And again, there's different goals, right? Like Merps watches a lot because he enjoys it. I play a lot because I enjoy playing more than I enjoy watching. But I know that that's impeding me. Like if you gave me 1,000 hours and told me to get good at the game, I would spend a bare minimum of 5% watching other people play. Like
Yes.
the bare minimum. But if you just told me, "Oh, here's a game you really enjoy, go at it," I'd be like, "All right, I'm gonna play the game until I'm like done with it, and then I'll watch someone, and then I'll play some more." But that's not about getting like better in the most efficient way, right?
All right. I'm going to make the last one short, but it really is the most important one. You just get tilted too much. I understand. People get tilted, man. All right. Even I get a little bit frustrated sometimes, but I'm just going to say this. None of you guys are special.
Oh,
None of you guys are special. And in the way that you don't have worse RNG than other people, okay? Bob isn't out to get you specifically.
Bob likes you.
Yeah, Bob likes everyone.
Bob believes in you.
But you're not special. And certainly what that means is you're not the only person who has hit a bad streak in BGs. You're also like, if you've played enough games, you're just like everyone else. You've been presented with the same options, however shitty. You've been having, really good luck. Maybe you don't remember it and you just remember the bad times, but just get it out of your system. I talked about this for Arena as well. There's really just no excuse. BGs, I'll tell you right now, there's a reason that Dog is number one on the leaderboard for BGs, and he's been number one in Legend, and he's won all these tournaments, and he can just take all of these decks and just dominate whatever game mode. Hearthstone, even if you want to laugh about its lack of skill, is very skillful. BGs in particular is very, very, very skillful over a large sample size, which is why you see the same exact leaderboard players over and over and over and over and over again. So if you want to join this group that has consistently proven themselves to be among the best, even though there's stuff like Sneasel Shredder plus Khadgar, we all love that combo. Even though there's all this stuff, you are not special, and you should feel good about that. All right, like you can get unlucky sometimes. I've tanked like MMR, and I play the exact same way. Stuff happens, but just recognize that. And if you're actually frustrated, fine, walk away for a little bit, but you're not special.
Yeah. If you're actually losing like a lot, like in a streak that's like you just feel like you're getting screwed in a streak that's more than like, I don't know, 4 or 5 rounds, then it's probably not Bob or Blizzard. It's probably at least a bit of you. Like I kind of draw a line after 3. Like I'll take 3 as bad luck, but if I'm having a 4th bad luck game, I'm like, I'm doing something wrong now. I don't know what it is. I can't see it. There's probably a red haze in front of me, so everything looks a certain way, but it looks normal to me. But I'm going to like either step away or like really change the way I do the next one. Maybe not like a permanent change in how I approach the game or whatever, but at that point, I just kind of think that I'm tilted, right? Like whether it's true or not. Like obviously you can low roll 4 times in a row, but unless it's super, super objective throughout the whole course of the game. Because a lot of times when you're tilted, you focus on the thing that is actually blatantly unfair and bad RNG for you, and you just like either don't think about or literally don't notice the other things that have been going right and really well with you over the course of the run, right? And that your tiltedness is making you like take more risks or not take any risks or whatever, right? It's just screwing off your risk analysis at some point. So I personally draw a line for BGs at 3.
I think that's fine. That's a good rule in general, and it might work for some people, it might not. But it's also hard for people to identify tilt. Some people identify it really well. But it's good that you have just set this hardline rule for yourself. Like, okay, if I'm losing that much, I'm probably affected in some way. Or if not, I'm not having fun anyway. Yeah. So screw that. I'm just going to stop for now. And that's cool. That's fine. Make sure you do that as well. Because I see people on Bob's Tavern subreddit and the Hearthstone subreddit say, I just lost 1,500 MMR in one night. I just lost 2,000 MMR. I'm doing the exact same things. Maybe they are. It's possible. But they could also just be tilting pretty hard. And none of us play perfectly. And like, if it's hard to identify the right play, it's really hard to identify subtle, different wrong plays that we might be doing. Because the right play and the wrong play are in BGs is much more complicated. It's much grayer than an arena in which like there are more pronounced right and wrong plays. In BGs, it's right about making the most cohesive plays according to a game plan. There are many game plans within one game that could work, and you just have to make the correct decisions in that like combo chain. I'll call it. It's almost like, you just gotta like make sure it. I don't know anything about Hades, but it's like you can choose many different builds to work, but you got to make a cohesive build, once you devote to it.
No. In Hades, what you do is you pack a lot of heat, and the heats gradually take choices away from you, so you don't get to make any choices, so you can't make a misplay later on. I'm not even kidding. Like, one of the first things I did in Hades that led to my success is I took away all my choices, because you get to pick which difficulty you put on. Like, difficulty gives you heat, so the more difficult you make the game, the more heat you get, and then, you do like a 30 heat run or a 40 heat run for like, I don't know, internet points, or just feeling like you've accomplished something to yourself to make the game more challenging. And one of the heats just like takes away all your choices. And so once I maxed that one, like life got so much easier for me. You can't make misplays when you don't get choices.
That's true. You actually cannot. You have less of a chance to make misplays. This is actually just true. Okay, so that's it. Those are my top 10 tips. And the last two are like even outside of the game, but
very applicable to the game.
Yeah, they're very applicable to improvement in general.
Yeah.
And I will say that the stuff that I talked about earlier, you might just be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I see lots of, even streamers make these mistakes. And I would say that this is something, if you are really looking to improve, this is like, try hard, really sweating it out kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you do want to do that though, enough very good players make these mistakes that I feel as though the vast majority of players have to be making these mistakes and not even recognizing.
I think that's the biggest part, is that most of these things you wouldn't recognize. Like, even after hearing this, you really have to sit down and think it through and like think about it while you're doing the run to like appreciate that you are making some of these mistakes.
Right. I'm afraid a lot of people will say, it's like, oh, I don't do that. Or it's like, oh, it sucks that other people do that.
Like, I don't know. Like, I hear this and I'm like, I do most of these. Like, most of these 10 things are things that I do wrong. Like,
yes, they are.
And I'm a top 200 Battlegrounds player at one point. Like, come on, people are definitely doing these wrong.
Sure.
Yeah. At one point, perhaps at a future point, we'll see, but not in this meta, definitely. So yeah, like this is, and a lot of it applies to more than Battlegrounds, like just gaming in general, and perhaps even wider in life. So yeah, that's BGs. I think that was super helpful. It's a good way to kick off the new year for people who are looking to up their BG game, because clearly BGs is the future of Battlegrounds. Is the future of Battlegrounds. Is the future of Hearthstone.
It
Freudian
is.
slip. Is the future of Hearthstone, whether Blizzard likes it or not. This is we're still not out of beta, right? Like they're still testing some stuff. The spells thing seems to be a big success. Who knows what they're going to do with it in the future, and yeah, it's all very interesting. But I want to talk about now just the Hades project that I have going on the side. So on YouTube, this is only going to be on YouTube, but it's not going to be on the Lightforge podcast. The Lightforge podcast is, generally speaking, about Arena, and this wouldn't make any sense. But I have recorded last night what turned out to be a 2-hour video. I try to keep it under 1 hour. But as you guys know from watching our card reviews, it just doesn't work out. So it ended up being like 2 hours and 1 minute or something. And it is a Hades. So I algorithmed Hades. Not super deep, not anywhere near as deep as Hearthstone. And Hades mechanics don't go as deep as Hearthstone because it's not a strategy game. But there are a few elements that you get to decide in the beginning of the run, and they are keepsakes. I guess the mirror. And keepsakes you get to switch in the middle of the run too, and I'll cover that in a different one. Which weapon you use, and heat. So I started off with heat because it is, I don't know if it's the most complicated, but it's the one that people have to keep like messing around in and changing. So I thought it'd be the most useful. So I made a 2-hour video that was a heat guide. I shared my tier list findings. I'm probably going to do a write-up about it and post it on the Hades subreddit and see if anyone there cares. It seems to be a pretty casual subreddit with a lot of like, art and like I'm having fun kind of thing. So probably
Disgusting.
not the hardcore crowd that would care about whether one heat is rated my 1.5 points or 1.2 points, which kind of makes a big difference. All right, that's like a plus 25% difference in difficulty level from picking a heat. Like that's, if I told you I'm going to increase your difficulty of the game by 25%, you're like, whoa, that's quite significant, right? But when you're picking heats, I think a lot of people like kind of were like, oh, it's all about the same. But anyway, that video is going up. I'll make another one about keepsakes and another one about weapon aspects. And I may make more because I've algorithmed the whole thing. So it's just applying the algorithm to more stuff like boons or like hammers or I don't know, whatever. I can just do it to everything. But not necessarily. We'll see if people care about this. If you are wondering what Hades is or whether you should buy Hades, everybody should play Hades. I don't say this about many games, but everybody should play Hades. And everybody will probably enjoy the game too, because there's something in this game for everyone. Like, you don't have to go anywhere near as hardcore as I'm getting in this. It's a roguelike. It's kind of like Diablo 2, but like an endless dungeon version of it. Except it's not an endless dungeon. You end the dungeon and you just like do it again. There's a lot of story elements. They do a really good job of weaving in the story into this seemingly arcade-like game format. For a roguelike, it's not hard. That's why this heat thing is so important, because the difficulty doesn't even really get ramped up until after you're like... It's so hard to talk about this game and the end game without spoiling the whole story. So I'm not going to go too far into it, but I'll just say, like, even if you're kind of a casual player and you think roguelikes are generally super hard for you, Hades is not a hard roguelike. It's actually one of the easier roguelikes. And there are so many things story-wise and just like fun-wise to it. You should definitely check it out. And if you've played the game and you got to the end game and then you're like, this end game seems long and grindy, hopefully this guide will maybe interest you again into starting to apply some of the heat to your runs. Anyway, check it out on YouTube. Check out, you watch my Twitter, Adbukta, and I'll tweet out any kind of write-up I do on it. And hopefully, this will help people plan their heat runs in Hades. I'm also going to be streaming some Hades on Tuesday nights and maybe Thursday nights, but definitely on Tuesday nights for the next 3 weeks. I'm just gonna be doing it anyway. I would prefer people watch, but even if no one ends up watching, because I don't know how fun it is to watch Hades. I have fun watching it, but I don't know if other people do. But come out and hang. The game can be paused at any time, so I'll actually probably be more interactive in my Hades streams than my Hearthstone streams, because I could pause, and I do pause frequently to make decisions. there's a timer in Hades where you're supposed to complete each zone in 5 minutes, so each run is like a total of 20 minutes of in-game time. I don't know how that's possible because it takes me like 5 minutes to make a decision, and there's like 100 decisions in the normal game of Hades. So like it takes me like 1 to 2 hours to do a run. Um, so yeah, it'll be fun. So come check out the stream Tuesday night or check out the YouTube video. Yeah, that's my pitch for the Hades content coming to the GOAT. And when are you playing Hades, Merps? I remember when I picked up, because I was late on this, all right? I picked this up at the end of November. And you were like, oh, I got so many games to play, but I'll get around to Hades because it's got so much hype to it, right? It's kind of the exact kind of game that you like to play.
Yeah, I'll get around to it, but right now, Pokemon cards are popping, dude. I need all my time devoted to Pokemon cards, the buying and the selling, mostly the buying. So it's really the buying and the buying. I just got to buy more, man. All right, a lot of Pokemon cards. Like I'm checking eBay right now. What about this card? No, it's a little bit off center. Ooh, or is it? No, it's off center. Yeah, I'm not. I'm gonna pass on this one. But it's very important. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just gotta, when the market's hot, you just gotta strike.
Yep.
That's what I'm doing.
And the market is always hot with Pokemon cards, right?
It's always hot, so I always got to be striking. But this is yes, Pokemon cards are a fun hobby of mine.
All right. Well, that's it for the Lightforge podcast this week. We'll see you guys back here next week with. We'll see. We may have a guest. If we have a guest, there may not be as much arena talk. If there's no guest, we'll build in more arena talk. This one was pretty BG's focused because the last one was very arena focused. But we're trying to strike a balance there. Stay hyped for Hearthstone, actually, just because Year of the Phoenix is going to end with many bangs, it seems. We're excited to see what they are. All right, until next time, this is Oddwick Dub.
This is Merp. See you guys.